Once you organize yourself, then you have to organize and build that team. We've talked before about leaders. They have to do 5 key things. They have to build that team first, have hard conversations, manage, mentor, and coach direct reports, hold remarkable meetings, and they really have to scale communication. And so as a superintendent, to create these stable environments that we talked about, just like General Patton did in World War II, we have to build that team. And I'll give you some hints here. So first of all, there's no such thing as appropriately babysitting people and letting others waste your time. So a certain amount of coaching is appropriate, but with your trade partners or with your vendors or with workers or people on your project site, you want to coach them, but you don't want to babysit them. You have to hold the standards. So if you're a superintendent, it's a little bit different than being a foreman. You have to hold the line. You have to hold the standards and you have to hold that stability. And so what I'm asking you to do is on your team to make sure that you have the right org chart, that you have the right organization, that you have the right communication standards, that you have the right meeting systems, right? But once you have that, you need to make sure that you're engaging in the right teaming principles. And we'll cover a couple of those right now. But the ultimate end of all success with this is that husbands and wives and partners can get home to their significant other on time in a stable week with the balance and leverage and the unity of that team. And we do that with a couple of different systems, which I'll mention right now. First and foremost, intentional coverage. So when you build the team, you have to know who's on first, who's on second. You have to know who's covering for critical portions of your project. Who's staying late, who's locking up the gates, who's supervising the loading of that material while the other person goes home and has a work-life balance, right? So we have to have intentional coverage systems. You will only have intentional coverage systems if your scheduling systems all work down to where you have a plan for the day that is visually communicated, where we can see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. And so if your team has the right composition, we know what roles they are, we have the right communication systems, we have the right meeting systems, and we have the right scheduling systems, the key is to be at the right place at the right time with the right coverage, knowing what the plan is for that day. So I hope that really made sense. But I'll tell you what, I've noticed that there are 3 key things, and you're probably used to this by now. There are 3 key things that a team has to have if they're ever going to be successful. And I'll list those right now. Every team has to have a strenuous performance goal. Every team. It doesn't matter where you are. You have to have a strenuous performance goal. Then you have to engage in 5 key behaviors. And this is as simple as it gets, but it works everywhere. These behaviors are the creation and building of trust, the engaging of healthy conflict, the setting of goals together as a team, holding each other accountable, and then performing. Those are the 5. That comes from a book from Patrick Lencioni called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And again, like that's simple. Like I said, you can't pay for information. Well, did you pay for this? You probably did. But anyway, like you can't get better information than that. If you have a strenuous performance goal, you have those behaviors, all you need is one more thing. And that's a multiplier leader. You need a multiplier leader. Diminishing leaders think people are stupid, quite frankly, and they micromanage and they give up on people and they throw people away and they do things and they play savior with people. Multiplier leaders think people are smart and they enable and they teach and they coach and they leverage and they allow and they really drive a team to success. So remember, and say it with me or write it down, you need a strenuous performance goal, the 5 key behaviors, and a multiplier leader. Now, if you're like, I really need to anchor back to some of this because this is a lot of information, I got you. Like I'm here for you. So the strenuous performance goal, that's in a book called Silos, Politics, and Turf Wars by Patrick Lencioni. The 5 behaviors, you can go back to the book and the field manual for the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And the multiplier leader, that right there, that is in the book You guessed it, multipliers. And it does not work outside of this system. You've probably seen teams where they've got good people and they're a pretty good team, but there's no performance goal. So they're not really performing. Or there's a performance goal, but the team hates each other and they're not performing. Or you have the goal in the team, but you have a diminishing leader and they're not performing. So one more time, if you have a leader that is really developing and mentoring his or her people, and they're getting through those stages of a team where you are creating trust, having healthy conflict, setting goals together, holding each other accountable, and performing towards that strenuous performance goal, you can win. And I just have to say this, as a superintendent, you're going to have to get real comfortable with accountability and conflict. And I'll tell you why. There's 4 phases of a team. And if you ever want to see it in action, go watch the movie October Sky or Remember the Titans, right? We all love those movies. Those are jams. I love Remember the Titans. I can jam to that movie. I love me some Titans, right? So you watch that, you'll see they went through 4 phases. Forming, storming, norming, and performing. You've all probably heard. Anybody on the other side of this camera has probably heard that before. The team forms, they storm and step on each other's toes, and then a leader galvanizes them in a certain goal, and then eventually the mission of the team heads everyone in the same direction, and you get remarkable results. Now, I am going to tell you something that nobody knows. If you read Patrick Lencioni's books from the Table Group, and specifically 4 of them with your team, that means if you read them, reflect on them, and implement. Read, reflect, implement. Read, reflect, implement. And you stabilize that team with those books, you will achieve remarkable results. I've been teaching these concepts for years, hundreds of people. And finally one day I was like, what if we read the books together? And immediately, every time we implemented that, dirt work team, your dirt crew, your underground utility crew, your company, your scheduling department, your survey department, don't care. This works everywhere you go. You stabilize that team, and I'm going to give you these 4 books. Take the time, and you can read them or you can listen to them on audio. The Motive teaches you about leadership. The 5 Dysfunctions, it teaches you about how to be a team. Death by Meeting, it teaches you how to run meetings. And The Advantage, it teaches you how to scale communication and clarity. These are traits that a superintendent must have to stabilize that team. And I'm just going to leave you with one last thing when it comes to the stability of the team. This takes effort, but it is so well worth it. Don't go solving problems. Fix the team that will solve the problems together. Okay? A team is only a team when they hold each other accountable. You are only a potential team or a pseudo team if you're not to that point. So think to yourself right now, on your team, everybody that's on the other side of this camera, on your teams, do you have a goal? Great. Do you have the people? Great. But do you hold each other mutually accountable to those results? And if the answer is no, you're not a team. And I love you. I'm right here. I love you. I'm not trying to offend you. You're not a team yet. And so if you can get to the point where you hold each other mutually accountable, then you can get there. And that's great. Again, that's where we want to head. And so whether it's like a potential team, a pseudo team, a coming together team into the real team, a real team holds each other accountable. And when you get to high performing team, that's where you hold each other accountable and you are mutually concerned about each other's careers and well-being. And so if you want to really win as a superintendent, you have to stabilize yourself, and then you have to stabilize your team. And every answer to any question you ever have is in a book somewhere. Call me, call BuildBook, call your mentor, whatever. This is how simple the system works. So as a super, you have to create stability with your team.